Hello and welcome back. This is David from the Personal Finance Squad. Okay, so when developing a budget, by definition, it means to track one's net income within a given time period, which is usually monthly, against the expenses that take away from it, thereby resulting in a net of zero. So, for example, let's say you had $2,000 in income and $2,000 in expenses. This is how your budget should look at the beginning of every month, and at the end of every month it should look the same way, which means you should end up at zero. That's how these budgets work. You might have to do a lot of manipulation to get there, and we'll certainly cover that through the book, but that's what needs to be done. That's how budgets are made. Another thing to think about is, what if you don't budget? So for example, we see Jasper has a month's worth of bills at $500 remaining at some point. Now, where would he put that money? He's got $500 left over as far as he knows. He looks in his account and says, I have $500. I think I paid my mortgage and I think I paid my car payment, blah, blah, blah. But then, okay, that's great. And then the next month comes up and he didn't realize that he spent too much money. He could be $500 in the hole and he wants to go see his favorite rock band and realizes he can't do it because he doesn't have the money. Or if he doesn't do that and really wants to go, and this is the trap that most people fall into, is they're going to turn around and they're going to end up putting money on the credit card. So the fundamental goal of budgeting is to predict as accurately as possible what expenses, savings, and investments that are going to happen every month against the money that you have in your income. So when we speak of expenses, we already know what those are, but the savings also mean other savings vehicles, and we'll get into those as well as we go, but there's things that you have to save for to balance yourself out. You can't just have straight expenses. You have to have money put aside to cover for unknown things, for future things, for emergencies, things like that. So that's considered as part of your budget every month because you have to put money in those accounts every month or those savings vehicles. And certainly investments. Now, investments could be a 401k plan or a Roth plan, things like that. So that is also an expense to you because you have to plan for your future. So again, it's not just straight expenses. Expenses include the gamut. So we just mentioned this, but for example, when you want to be as accurately as possible with the money you're spending, that means you're going to have to track everything that you have. And in some cases, it's very hard to predict what that money is, especially if you're not looking at it. So we can see, for example, what if Jasper is spending $400 a month on groceries, but he doesn't really track it or really doesn't know it. And then after 3 or 4 trips to the store, let's say he's purchased dozens of items, it's very difficult, it would be for anybody to really understand what you're spending that money on. So again, it's very important not just to take the things that are fixed amounts, such as car payment, but you're also going to have to track the variable costs that occur each month. And a variable cost certainly is groceries. Okay, so this is very important. These are just introduction pieces right now. These are the types of things that you need to carry in your mindset as we start approaching the way to budget in a structured manner. So I want to get down here and add one little piece here. We see that budgets come with this stigma, and that means you're cheap or a penny pincher. And the bottom line is that is just the stigma. And you need to look at budgets in the right way, because when you do so, you're going to plan your future out. You're going to be much better off than most of the people. Remember, 3/4 of all people live paycheck to paycheck. 3/4 of all people cannot afford to retire at retirement age. And the ones who do are the ones who manage their money. So, doesn't matter if you make $35,000 or $500,000. No one's impervious to budgeting. If you do not track it, if you do not manage your money, you will eventually end up in a hole. You will end up in a bad spot. And if not for anything else, you've hurt yourself from having more money in your bank or more money in your investments because you didn't manage your money. There's many times you have a bill come in, like your cell phone goes up, or your cable bill goes up, or you pay for some service and you don't check things out and realize they've overcharged you. You could go and say, hey, for 6 months I've been tacking on this extra data in my plan I didn't know about. There's several things that could happen if you don't look at your bills and understand the management of the money against them. You're going to end up in problems. You're just giving things away to other people. You're not keeping more money in your pocket. You're giving it to someone else. The thing to remember here is, looking back to that example, although maybe a little extreme, but we talked about in the introduction that 68% of NFL players end up bankrupt in 5 years after they retire. You may not know this, but the average NBA player's career salary or earnings is $24.5 million. Think about that. And that means the majority of them are going to end up bankrupt. But truth be told, again, just because you make 35 and someone else makes 500 or several million, no one's impervious, as we said before. You have to manage money. And we're going to keep this credo and this stigma in your mind as we carry things out in subsequent chapters. So that's going to conclude our introduction here. And in the next section, we are going to get straight into building that budget out, creating that outline, and start a path to success. So thanks for joining, and we will see you in the next video.